Okay, so the meeting has started. Let's start with our Pledge of Allegiance. We're ready?
I
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. It looks like Don's ready to call in.
At the tone, please record your message.
I'm just going to leave him.
Okay. Yeah, that he can call in.
Hang up or press 1 for
Great.
more options.
Well, that's
Dawn, this is Julie. We're at the board meeting in Swanton at 6 o'clock. If you want to call me back when you get this message, it's call me back.
Thank you, everyone, for making it tonight to our board meeting. So let's start off with any agenda amendments. Did anyone have any agenda? Anybody have any agenda? Sorry, I just realized I forgot my ring somewhere. Anyway, I remember where it is, so we're good. Agenda amendments? No? Okay, good. Correspondence, items for future agenda, and public comments. Appears that we don't have any comments at this point, but we are having all kinds of upcoming events going on with the supervisory union stuff, but more to come on that as we go through the night. Okay, so how about approval of the board minutes from October?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Oh, I'm sorry, I was supposed to, yeah, all opposed? Nay? Good, we're good. So the minutes passed. Thank you, Tamara, those were great.
It'll be 3 tonight, correct?
Yes, I agree. Yeah. Perfect. Okay, so, and now we're at the fiscal and HR report.
And Laura is on her way,
Okay.
and really will need to touch base on each of those. So
Okay. Should we flip that then?
you go to the
Principal's
right to the
report?
principal's report.
Principal's report, kind of short and sweet. I had shared our current numbers, also shared out our parent-teacher conference participation. We had 81% this fall. One of the things I'm very proud of the fact, we have teachers calling, almost hounding parents who were not able to come for a conference. And teachers are really good when they gave us the data. They were really clear about, I have one scheduled for next week, or I have 2 parents who didn't make it. I'm going to follow through. And we gave it about 3 weeks after, and if we weren't able to meet face-to-face with a family, we then sent the report card home because we felt it was, you know, a good faith effort in doing that. Then if they had any questions, they could call. But I think 81% is pretty good.
Did you count this? Did you count? Does it count if they did a phone?
Yeah, anything.
So
And
good,
some people, that was really any families that they met with. Sometimes they were the week before, especially if it was an IEP meeting, instead of having families come in more than once, rolled it all into one. So I thought that was pretty good too for our teachers. They worked really hard. I think for the most part, this was the first time in many, many years we had them on the Monday and Tuesday before Thanksgiving. I haven't heard any specific feedback about that for families. I think here at school it worked out well because in the past, you know, we got ready for conferences, had conferences, then came back for a week and 2 days to teach before Thanksgiving. So this time it was a lot of assessments, getting things prepared. And we may, I don't want to say I don't know if it matters, but because it was an SU decision, I don't know about sending a survey or whatever, but I hadn't heard any informal feedback from families about timing. So that went very well, and of course we'll have another round in springtime. That will be here before you know it. A couple of things, Channel 15 was here again. Thanks to Channel 15, they were awesome. They will be in one more time in January, and that's when we're doing little snippets. Paul Snyder has been awesome doing that, and I'm pretty sure it's Katie Foster. I want to make sure I get that right. Just the flexibility, the kids, the teachers, so those are things that we'll start posting after probably mid to late January to showcase some of the things going on here at school. Gianna Messier, who was totally awesome all the time, she coordinated a VSO performance on December 3rd. Featuring the brass trio.
Hi, Don.
And very, very excited for our kids to have that experience. And they are phenomenal when they come. So they do a really nice job
Yes, can
with
you
the
hear me,
younger
Dawn?
kids and the older kids. Kindergarten students got to visit the Flynn Theater, and that was a beautiful experience. Sixth grade students, they had been learning about informational writing, and this is things that you folks had already read, but they did they had an opportunity to interview Mrs. Gail Deutsch from 2020. So not only did the kids get that, but they also shared what they did through Channel 15. So that will be broadcast as well. So great experience, grade 6 teachers. Just Janine Matat, who is a paraprofessional who's been in Swanton for 5 years, is retiring. So her last day will be Friday. She's getting done, instead of waiting till the end of the year, getting done now. And we totally support her in doing that. And our new teachers spent their second day with Tina Bugren. That was last Friday. Good timing. She always comes in very, very pumped up and energetic about helping our teachers kind of make it to that holiday break. And so far this week, things have been going well. Jason gave us a whole list of things that he and his staff have been taking care of. Weather has been okay. Our kids have been outside, the playground, the snow, the not snow. A very busy week this week. Trying to have fun, trying to finish up some of, units. This is always a good stopping time for teachers and kids, obviously, to finish up those things and to come back in January, starting fresh. So that's just a little overview. The big thing I want to remind people too on January 10th is our winter instrumental and vocal concert, and that we always do at night, and our kids are really ready for it. So, thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Question. I think they're late. I can hear Dina very well, but who was the teacher who's on leave?
There is no teacher on leave. It was a paraprofessional who's retiring. Is that okay, Dawn?
Yeah, so it was a paraprofessional that was hired, not a teacher.
She's retiring.
Retiring.
Yeah.
Yes, not a teacher. Right. They usually wait till the end of the year. Hopefully.
Hi, Don. Nice to have you.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
So thank you, Dina, for that update. And also, I just wanted to ask you about the numbers and what, I know you put the numbers in your report.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of interesting because the ADM, or I wasn't quite sure, like the tally when you first did it, which one is counting towards the budget, the numbers? I just was curious about that. Is there any change in terms of reimbursement because of when kids show up? If I'm making myself clear, I don't think I am.
so, and I'm
Yes, there
not
is.
sure.
Yeah.
It would
If
be
they're there, if
after.
they're here for the 20-year counting period in the beginning of the year, then we get credit for them.
So it's working out that we are getting credit for all the ones that we've got now because the numbers.
When they
did-
come later in the year, you won't get the credit for them right
Yeah, I
away.
wondered when the cutoff was.
They're counted October 1st, and they're counted in the spring. I'm not sure what the spring
Okay.
date is.
Right.
And then it goes into an average, and our average daily membership is weighted by grade level, and then
Free and
equalized
reduced
pupil
enrollment,
is,
Yeah, the 20 days in the month of October, that's your ADM period, but
Yeah.
I don't know which.
That's why I was wondering if we were having some change recently.
No, and I think the biggest thing is too, like right
Thank you.
now, it's down 1, but really that's where we are now, but we've had several come, several go. So that number's been staying pretty even the last couple of months. So we'll see how it continues.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, should we switch back to fiscal now, fiscal and HR? Laura has joined us, thank you.
Yes.
Was there a basketball game? The parking situation
Yes.
was a little
Yes.
different than I thought.
Yeah.
Used to just flying right in.
Yeah.
So, warrants. We have 2 months of warrants to.
Can you hear okay, Don?
I'm here.
Can you hear okay?
October.
I'm here, yes.
Okay, good.
So October and November. And John, I have more bills too. Yeah. Don't run away.
I'll make a motion. Make a motion that we approve following warrants for the month of October 2018. and that's the amount of $1,909,841.26.
Second.
That's for October.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Yeah, yes, I am.
Oh, good. We got 3 ayes. Perfect. Thank you.
And now I'll make a motion that we approve the warrants for November 2018, and that's $509,141.41.
A second?
Megan seconded.
$509,141.41. Lots
Megan
of
seconded.
4 ones.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, all opposed? Okay, motion carried. Warrants passed. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm passing out another draft
Oh,
of
thank you.
Swanton fiscal year 20 budget. This draft is going to look significantly different from what you're used to.
Does Dawn have a copy, or did this come out? I didn't remember.
Dawn does not.
No, okay, so, sorry, Dawn. This is new.
I can send it to him.
Any changes?
I just sent him the budget, Laura, he just asked for that. If you, I
Can you,
just sent Dawn the
What budget?
You
This
have- Not budget, agenda.
Yeah, I did
Oh,
that
So you
too.
did too, so he's got it twice, I don't know. So he's,
If you have it electronically, it'd be
I don't
good.
have it in its own file yet. I
Okay.
can create one really quickly if you want.
it might be helpful, huh, Dawn, for you to be able to see it? If it's not,
It's okay. I can, I never hear Laura as clearly as I heard Dina and John.
okay.
Let me move the phone, Dawn, and while I do that, I will explain that the reason why this budget looks different is that we are moving toward a merged budget at this point, and we took out all the revenue, and the assessments are represented more accurately as to what expenses exist in the building itself, so that the board has an opportunity to look at an expenditure budget, so that when we're looking at a transition board accepting this, the representatives from Swanton can really be representing what it costs to run the school. So I'm going to put you next to Laura.
Okay. Thank you.
But she did such a nice job explaining it that now I don't have to say a whole lot. Thank you, Julie.
I've heard it a couple times.
Yes, yes. And so, yes, this is how we're representing draft 3s in all of the schools. Again, just a full expenditure budget without any revenues netted, because we know that when we merge, revenues will be applied differently. They will just be pooled along with the expenses and netted off the top. So whereas now, certain title dollars or special ed dollars or IDEA funds or Medicaid funds are allocated differently. It's very school specific. And then in regards to the assessments, we assess differently currently on different rubrics depending on the assessment and what the Franklin Northwest Board had decided upon, and the removal of Sheldon along with no longer assessing but pooling the expenses just creates a totally different environment. So we feel like it's important for all the schools to see a baseline of the full expenses that it costs to run the school regardless of revenues.
Okay.
So that's, and I can say, yeah, I think so. I think it's a good starting point. But it does look much different. If you look at the variance column, it'll look significantly, like there's a very significant increase, and there truly is not. In Swanton's local lines, and including the assessments, minus the transportation revenue coming in differently, is about $60,000 over last year. So it's quite minimal, truly.
Because what percent is that, 60?
Not even a percent, I don't
Yeah.
think. Let me see.
Questions for
Yeah, not even.
Dina, but Jason have anything significant in his budget, a change from what we had discussed earlier?
I can highlight the changes from the last draft to the local budget if you want, Dawn, and then Dina can jump in on that.
That would be helpful.
Okay.
So it's plant specifically, Dina and Jason have proposed increasing the capital repair and maintenance the capital project line, I'm sorry, where we had, back when the article language changed, we had, rather than doing a separate article for the capital project improvements, we had integrated that into the general fund. So that started at 25,000 in fiscal year 19, it went to 50, and I think we're proposing another $20,000 right now be added to that line for a total of 70,000 in that capital line. So that was one of the changes. In extended learning field study, there's an increase to $10,000. That's under instructional programming on page 1. It's 31001 on the first page. That's going up from 5,500 to 10,000. I've added in some funding for soccer and basketball uniforms, about $500. That was an estimate. I don't know what they truly cost. But that's in the instructional 61001 line.
Did Toby give input on that?
I thought he had brought something up about that at the last meeting, correct?
Yeah, he had wanted us to look into that. That was his request, and we knew timing.
All right.
We're also trying under that line item for this year to see if there is any money to put towards it this year within those line items. So we're gonna try to do that. But those were the estimates to replace them next year.
See, my thoughts on that is, I want to make sure we put in enough money so we can do a really first-class job. With this whole transition into a consolidated budget, I just think this is an opportunity for us as we make this transition to make sure that we're planning well for the future. And so, I'm sure there are other people who know as much about it as Toby does, but I know Toby's pretty close to costs for athletics. So I would just want to make sure that we don't slip on this and then find out once we're merged budget that, why didn't we throw in another few $1,000s? So that would be the only thing I would raise, is somebody go back and make sure, and I'm not saying you haven't done it, maybe I haven't followed it, but I want to make certain there's adequate money there to do a really first-class job.
And we appreciate that. As you know, we're looking to add some money too for the Countess and Pinnell kits. We were trying to look at this year as well. I think it's always a little difficult for us to keep adding and adding and adding, and yet I totally appreciate what you're saying, and I don't mind doing that, but it's just a different way of looking at it, I guess. So we'd be more than happy to continue that. I think the soccer and the basketball uniforms themselves, that was kind of an add-on. So I think we're going to do the best we can with that as well. But definitely I'll keep that in mind.
Whatever the group decides, but, I'm a school board member, and I'm proud of our Swanton kids and all the work that volunteers put in. I want to make sure that we're planning for the future, and as I say, we do a first-class job. A few $100s, a few $1,000s in this size budget won't make any difference to anybody, but it could make quite a bit of difference to the youngsters as they go forward.
Yeah. Nice. And then, so just to keep highlighting the changes, under the 1100 730 line, which is instructional program equipment, there's adding increase to 7,500 for a clock, but to be honest, Dina, I need you to elaborate on that one.
That's once again, it's been on our list for a while. It's the clock in the gym, the score clock. Yeah, and that, Toby has been all over that the last couple of years, and we did decide to put it in for next year.
So I'm sorry,
Sorry,
that's
no.
actually, the Unified Arts equipment has its own line that probably won't continue to be separated out as we
Okay.
merge together. Things are going to be consolidated for sure,
And
but.
that is easy enough.
And then under health services, which is a 2130, I'm not sure what page that is for you guys.
Page 3.
Page 3. We've added to the 730 line for a vision screener, about approximately $3,500.
For the kids, you mean, to get
Yeah.
vision screen? Good idea.
And that was in planning ahead and talking with Wendy and Danielle, that is something that we could look to purchase next year. It's not a necessity next year, but kind of thinking along those lines as Dawn's talking, if we put it in for next year, that would be a good investment. Because we do that, the screening right here too.
That could be used for all the schools, couldn't it?
for all the kids? I mean,
It could, I don't know if we share it out, I don't, I think Swanton
It's
has
pretty
their
big.
own. Yeah.
Big
It is
pieces of
part of it,
equipment.
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Would be different.
There's some pieces I think that are shared or something, but I'm not sure, I
There's some
don't think.
hearing equipment.
The hearing is, yeah.
and I think that's about it. That are additions since the last draft. Of course, we have the normal salaries and benefits and the other things we've talked about. But overall, I think, the increases are minimal. So as you look through this draft, I encourage you to focus on the more local lines, your line by lines under instructional and health services and library. That's truly, and look at your variance from the last budget column, which is, your first to last column. If you really want to see where the increases are in your local budget, what used to be assessment lines, I've taken the word assessment out, are quite skewed from, it's just a completely different approach. So if you want more detail on those, that's where that SU discussion would happen, where you're seeing the line by lines of those budgets. But again, we just wanted you to see what the true cost of Swanton School is.
I have a question for Dina.
Don's asking, I'm sorry, John's asking a question, Don?
I'd like to ask a question of Dina.
Yeah, I think you're in the middle of, you didn't see this, but John is in the middle of asking a question. We didn't hear it. And then you, Don. So let's finish with John.
I'll listen to
Go ahead, John.
I just wondered what the plan is for the fund.
For the kids?
I know we talked about.
Did you say
I didn't
instruct?
add it into this draft. I thought we had said we were pretty sure we could find it.
Yes.
But I did just add it now, so I wouldn't forget moving forward. I guess I wasn't,
And that's exactly it, with the kits, we are trying.
The kits.
The kits, the F&P kits that we talked about last time. We think, we're almost 100% sure we can find them out of the current year in the proper areas of instructional supply, because we didn't spend all of that. The trouble with that is, some teachers don't spend all up front. So we're gonna look at that, but we think that we can. Laura was great.
We will still
and just
charge to that line.
Yeah, yeah, and it would just, so our plan is to move forward with that. I always hate to move too soon, and we don't have to do that right now, so we were thinking about ordering those around February. Then we would know the current status at that time.
Is that good?
Thank you.
Okay.
It's good.
Okay, Don, what was your question?
Hey, this is for Dina. Dina, maybe I'm out of the touch, but it appears to me that our music program has kind of expanded over recent years. And as I say, I could be wrong. In fact, I'm not even sure I know who the music teachers are now, but it seemed like a few years ago when I went to some events, it looked like the music program had expanded. I just want to make certain, again, as we go forward, that if we have a music program that is, I want to say superior, but I got to be careful there, but broader than some of the other schools, that we make certain that we're funding that well. I think it's a real important thing for some students, particularly as they prepare to think of being in the band at MVU. So I don't know where you're with that. I don't know if we've ever had any requests for, additional support for the music program. I don't mean staff necessarily, but I know student-wide stuff. So it's just something that I need a note of going into the budget. Does the music program need more support than maybe it's traditionally gotten?
And I will definitely double check that, but right now, as far as personnel, I think that they're fine in handling the numbers and what they have right now. There's not, I don't want to say there's not a lot of cost, because that's not right, but as far as our instruments, the kids are renting those. We purchased a new piano a couple of years ago. I believe that both of them would say that they feel like they're very well supported right now. I think for anything, Dawn, and this, if you can fix, you can let us know, but it's how we balance instrumental lessons with the rest of the day, because we truly value that, but kids are being pulled from classes We would never make that a before or after school thing, so it's just a matter of balancing that. I think our teachers have been great. The Gianna Messier is our instrumental music teacher. She works very closely with teachers. One of the things we're excited about is besides individual or small group lessons, advanced band and advanced orchestra, beginner band and beginner orchestra, weekly have a time when they all come together. That's fairly new over the last couple of years. They would really practice only once or twice before the concert, but with the schedule, we were able to make some shifts. So having that additionally is outstanding for our kids.
Yeah.
Thanks for the update. It sounds like we're doing okay. All right.
Okay, but I'll make sure we keep that going and continue to grow, for sure.
And in the meantime, Don Toby is here to join us.
Can I speak to the 20,000 in plant? Is that okay to do this now? Because it also ties with the capital reserve. I hope this is a good, Laura had mentioned in next year's budget, in the capital reserve line within that budget, we had asked for that to be an additional 20,000. The 50,000 that's in there, as the board knows, that's what we have been using to maintaining the building, like the red house, asbestos abatement, that's in there, so we can continue to make those steps. We asked for the additional 20,000 because we were going to bring to the board tonight the idea of spending 29,500, and we'll shift those from the capital reserve fund that Laura had explained is almost due to be closed. Am I you saying that right? We don't want it to turn into a sinking fund. So, and there is money in there, $20,000 that was earmarked for playground, really around the testing or the feasibility, thank you. So the goal was to spend that down in a very, I believe, fiscally responsible way. So the 20,000 would be used towards the playground feasibility. The approximately other 29,000, Jason, I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure that we're using the
Appropriate word, sorry.
So it was feasibility study money for the facility itself. That was, we went to the voters 2 years ago, I believe, and asked to repurpose that for playground specifically. So I just want to make sure we're being clear about the pools of money.
That's good.
So using that, then the additional funds that are left, one of the big ticket items that has been on our 5-year plan for a while was the lighting for the Babcock parking lot. Jason currently has a quote for $49,500 that I believe he has shared with Laura as well. The idea was to use the $20,000 from the budget plus the $29,000 to be able to do that installment this summer. Does that sound right?
I'm not sure I'm following you either, I'm sorry.
Okay.
The 20,000 was going to be repurposed to the playground fund.
Yes, the 20,000, I'm sorry, in our local budget that we put in for next year.
Okay.
So after he would start this project, obviously.
Different
finishing-
20,000,
Yeah,
okay,
the
yeah.
20, that's why the 20,000 is there. We knew we didn't have it all in the capital reserve, so in our planning for next year's budget, that's why that figure was $20,000 higher than before, in anticipation of trying to do this project.
Because the 50,000 is already earmarked to finish the abatement and those other
Exactly,
items that were.
And continue with that. So by adding that amount of money, we could also do another major project while using those funds in the capital reserve.
Is that the
Yeah.
430.03? Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm. You have to be careful, to be very careful too about not using the word reserve, because this is not a reserve. A reserve would have been when you're asking for a separate article and you're truly
Right.
creating a reserve fund. This is a general
This is a
line
general
item in your
budget.
budget, and it's expended that way, so. it's part-
430.03?
Yeah. mhm.
But that was the addition, that was the rationale behind the additional 20,000 in our local budget, 1920.
I mean the variance. 'Cause of-
Yeah.
Okay.
but I just thought that, so that, I wanted to be able to explain that, but then to also put the motion to the board to be able to have Jason work with Laura and to do the necessary steps with this project for the lighting.
I don't know that there would be a motion necessary right
Okay.
now to include that in the budget. Truly, you're just asking to include another 20,000 in the budget for a project, which is
Yes.
lighting, that we would, if this budget passes and it's in that line item, there is no separate motion that's necessary. The board can move forward, or the projects can move forward.
Okay, but was there a need for a motion?
There's a need for a motion to not repurpose, but move the money from the capital reserve playground fund to the playground fund. If
That's
that
a
makes
different-
sense, to the general
Yes,
fund
it is.
playground fund.
But
Okay,
then
I have a question at some point.
the additional 29,000 that's currently in the
That they would need to approve for you to expend. I'm sorry if I'm not
Yeah.
following along.
That was what I.
Okay, all right.
That's- I thought
It's okay, it'll be
that
clear if we
needed
keep
some
repeating it.
Okay.
Question?
You ready for Don? Go ahead, Don.
Okay, I heard Tina speaking, and I think I followed her, but I think I heard the issue a little more clearly or differently from Laura. So I just would ask Laura to walk me through it, because I think what I heard is we aren't going to take any money out of capital reserve, but we're going to put $20,000 in the budget.
Okay, let me start from the beginning and kind of recap it for you, if that might be easier.
That would be great. That
Okay,
would be great.
so in the fiscal year 20 budget, that, in draft 3 that's being proposed, there's an additional $20,000 above and beyond the $50,000 that's in a capital project repair and maintenance line that was established a couple of years ago. And the purpose of that addition is to complete a lighting project above and beyond the other 5-year plan items that were already in the works, like asbestos abatement and those items. So that would be for a lighting project. The other things that, the other,
Wait a minute, I know that 20,000 is for lighting at the Babcock building?
Yes.
the parking lot, yes.
Not the one at Babcock, not the building, but the parking lot at Babcock, yeah, okay. And that's just gonna be a line item in the budget.
Well, there already is a $50,000 line item for capital projects, so there's been an additional $20,000 proposed in that line.
Now, Laura, when you're talking about capital reserve, isn't that usually a separate article on the warning?
Yes, and that's what I was going to get to. So a couple years ago, when the article language changed, and it got very confusing with the net ed spending per equalized pupil, and if you had a capital reserve, then you had to have 2 different paragraphs and all of that. Swanton decided Swanton made the decision to incorporate a capital project repair and maintenance line for these larger scale projects in their local general fund and not ask for a separate article.
Okay.
That started at 25,000, it went up to 50, and then it's being proposed at 70 for fiscal year 20. That being said, Swanton has an existing capital reserve fund that has a total of about $49,500 in it, $49,500. $29,004 is available for any capital. It's not projects. It's not earmarked for anything specifically. $20,000 and some change is earmarked specifically for the playground right now, but it's in a capital reserve fund. It was repurposed feasibility study money that a couple years ago the board took to the voters to ask if they could repurpose it for a playground.
Okay.
So
That was approved.
yeah, and that was approved, but now that there's a capital playground campaign and those funds are being put into the operating checking account tracked under a different fund, the board would need to make a motion authorizing me to move those funds from the capital reserve checking account and that fund to the playground fund in the operating account.
The 20,000, correct?
That's 29,500.
No, that's the 20,108.67. The other 29 can be for other capital projects, and Dina spoke to those. Yeah.
Okay, so we're moving 20,000 plus to the playground fund.
If the board chooses, yes.
Yeah, we choose.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Thank you, Laura.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Now I get it, thank you.
That helps. Thank you. So this is great to tell us what's changed and what's in addition. And so what do we do now?
We make a motion to move.
No,
It's technically not.
Not yet.
Your board doesn't currently have authority to move anything in this budget because as of today, the body that will be responsible for the new budget will be the new district board.
Okay.
And so this, and Toby, you came in, your budget looks different because we're looking at a total expenditure budget without assessments, without revenue. Just what does it cost to run the school and the staff and the folks that are in your building. So what we wanted to make sure is that this board understands what is in this budget, what you support. The discussion this evening has really clarified some of that. Then the representatives that we'll get to later about who's on that transition board will then carry that into the discussion because when the budget is merged, there, it will be a much larger budget. We don't know yet what the tax rate will be, what the equalized pupil count will be. There are, there will probably be conversations about changes to make it something that that board feels the community will support. And so it's important to speak to, and I have folks that really understand, well, we've put this money in here for this very important purpose. We really support this and so forth. So all the boards are having that opportunity to really understand what's in their budget.
And then going forward, the transitional board, the two
Two from
however
each
many,
of the
right?
local boards, yes.
So the two from Swanton will be able to basically fight to make sure that, not fight, but make sure that we
advocate-
understand,
advocate for the needs of their
There we
building.
go, much better word.
Inform.
Yes, got it.
But I have a question, and that has to do with, that happens, we don't even form this new place, this new union until later. So right now we're spending, we have money. I'm not talking about approving a budget, I'm talking about spending what we currently have or aligning what we
Continue to
currently
spend that
have.
to June 30.
So why can't we do the motion to take that 20,000 plus to the, and allocate?
Oh, that you can.
That you
That's a
can.
separate-
That's
Okay.
next.
Yes, that's a
Oh,
separate
okay,
thing.
thank you. I thought you were saying we couldn't do that
No,
until.
just
No.
the
Oh, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, that's
I thought
okay
you
then.
meant make
Okay.
a motion on this budget or.
Oh, no, just the 20,000.
Okay, good, thank you, that helps.
That's next.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm jumping the gun.
No, that's okay. You guys, for you all, this is a really different way to lay out the budget. But for us, what we really pay attention to are these, so it's really not that different. Do you guys find, as board members, because we don't really know how much of the money's coming in from the state or all that kind of stuff. So this
Well,
is,
typically this time of year, I would be bringing you a tax rate calculation, I would know your
Right. Okay,
anticipated
that's what
revenues,
you
I'd know
mean.
your equalized pupils, I'd be
Right.
telling you your
Okay,
spending's
what
gonna
it's
be
gonna be.
X, and we're not
but the
there
good
right
news
now.
is, we kind of know, we're keeping our costs really low, that we're doing a really good job and stuff like that, plus not being so low that we're going to deprive kids.
Right.
We have to be, you can't just cut. We have
Right.
to spend as well to build, which is, I think, what you've been talking about, Don, as we've been entering this.
Making investments.
Right, we have to invest as well. Thank you.
Over the period of, I guess, maybe 2-3 years with Act 46, I've interacted with people from quite a few school boards, mainly through my BSB work. And I guess I would say one thing that's come across to me is, as you're moving into this transition, make certain that you're looking to the future. You bring assets and you bring liabilities. So, I think any opportunity that we see we can legally do ASAP, that we think will have a positive impact going forward, I think we should do. I'm pretty frugal with my money, and I try to be with other people's money, but through this whole Act 46, I think I've changed my thinking a little bit. And so, everybody wants to tighten their belt, but I don't want to tighten it so much that 3 years from now we strangle ourselves. So I think that this is a good use of money. And I guess the question I would have is, Julie and Laura feel comfortable with the process that we're going through as far as the finances and wooden part, I'm enthusiastic about it.
Comfortable would be a strong word, Don.
I think the challenge, Don, is that we do not have any answers from the state yet, and that, I think, is a challenge. I know it's a challenge for business managers across the state because of all the activity right now around mergers and the data that the state has not been getting in a timely manner to help them with this information. There's a lot of unknowns, and it's making this whole process very difficult. But at least we can control what's in front of us, and that's, putting together a budget that represents the needs of our school.
Thank you.
I don't know where we are in a 5-year plan.
Well, that was.
That will
We're gonna
go,
do that later?
that will go with us, right? And that will show what and even if we add to it, so with the new board, that yes, this is what we plan on doing. And it should be a help at budget time.
It's just that understanding as we move forward that all the revenues and all the expenses with these different towns is now going to be shared.
Yes.
It's an understanding that what happens in one town is going to have an impact on another. But it's that way for everyone. So it's not like one's just giving to the, everybody's on the same kind of playing field.
And we should all make some investments, so. Okay, so that's it. This is just more informative and feedback. And I think a couple of things were mentioned earlier in terms of making sure maintenance. Toby, you weren't here when we were discussing some of the athletics and some of the needs that we had there that we hadn't been investing in. So as board members, what you want us to do with this is to look at it more closely on our own and get back to you if we have anything that comes to mind. Yes? Okay. And Dina, you feel comfortable?
I do. I mean, we sat with Laura, worked with Jason, looked at the instructional areas. So I do.
Okay. Good. Great. So any more questions? Are we ready to move on? Oh, go ahead, Don.
Has Toby joined our meeting?
Yes, he has.
Okay.
Yes. He came in. Yeah. Okay, so are we ready to move on to the next agenda item? Thank you for putting that all together for us. All right, so next agenda item is the capital reserve allocation to the playground fund, and an action is needed on that. And I think we have discussed it. So would someone like to make a motion that we do that?
I'll make that motion.
Megan, what motion would you like to make?
Motion to move the $20,100.
We can just say give or take a few dollars.
Okay, yeah, approximately $20,000
and everything, yeah.
into the playground fund.
Okay, a second?
I'll second.
John seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Don?
Yeah. Are we voting on the capital reserve or the PTO?
Capital reserve.
Okay, yes.
Okay, yes. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, so that means that the playground fund just got an extra 10,000 something.
20,000.
20,000, sorry, 20,000 plus. Great.
Laura, can I just ask, do we need a motion to spend the rest of?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Okay, so now we're on the
Are you
PTO
going to be
fund.
spending it now?
Not the PTO fund.
No.
This-
The remaining 29,000 in the capital reserve, that is going to be addressing some of the capital items on the.
That would be
lighting project.
specifically for the lighting project.
We're
The
thinking,
29,000 from this plus the 20,000 from next year,
Would
but
add up to-
when he's gonna buy the materials now?
I think that was.
When would that happen?
I don't know. I will check with him. He was, well, it can all wait till after the 1st. I just didn't know we were trying to move ahead with that fund right now, with the capital reserve.
Right, I mean, if it happens in the next couple of months, there's no, I mean,
Okay.
I'm not in a rush to have that happen. If he wants to go ahead and if he has somewhere to put all that stuff, and
Okay.
then I guess it doesn't matter to me if the board makes that motion tonight or closer to when it's going to happen.
Okay, I misunderstood because I just thought we
As
were
long as
trying
it's
to
by
wrap
June
that
30.
up. Okay, okay.
The one I really wanted to move was the playground. The playground funds, I felt strongly should be moved now.
should we move the other though, while we're at it?
Or does it, I
That's
guess.
not
He has to make purchases with that
Oh,
money, so
okay.
it doesn't, it's 6 to 1, half dozen the other. You can
Gotcha.
authorize him to do that now, and he might not do it for a couple of months, but he has the authority to do that and expend those funds.
Whatever is best, I thought we were.
That's
trying
fine,
to
if you
close
wanna do
that
it now.
one up, but
I say we do it.
Doesn't matter.
When I say a year, it's like fiscal year, not a calendar year.
Do we have a motion to use the remaining from that special
Capital reserve.
capital reserve? A motion to use the remainder to purchase,
Materials for the parking lot.
Thank you.
Lighting project.
thank you. Are you making that motion, Megan?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Megan made the motion. Do we have a second?
I missed that motion. But can I hear it again?
Sure.
It's a motion to give authorization to Jason to make purchases of the up to $29,000 remaining in the reserve fund to go toward materials for the Babcock lighting project.
Okay.
Babcock parking lot
If I
lighting.
can just say,
Okay.
the remaining balance, which is approximately 29,415.
Do you want to, who wants to second that?
I will.
I'll second that.
All right, Don, does.
Okay, Don seconded, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so it passed unanimously. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Now, the next item, is that PTO? Do we need to do something with that? What's?
Do you have a letter, Dina?
No,
Oh.
from PTO.
Then I had thought that Justina was getting a letter from the PTO for the board to consider. Technically, the board has the authority to just move the money.
Right.
But the PTO was going to draft a letter.
I
Is this
don't
something
have it.
different?
No, it is what's
It's
up
a
there.
donation, basically a transfer of PTO funds that has been earmarked for playground that the PTO has said they will move to the playground fund. I believe it's $35,000.
Here it is, right up there.
Wow.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, we, the members of the Swanton School PTO, are requesting to have funds in the amount of $35,000 reallocated from our account to the Swanton School Playground Fund. And the signatures are there.
Wow,
Gee, that's great.
Really good.
that's amazing.
This has been building for a very long time.
That's awesome. So what do we need, a motion?
We
or just?
don't need a motion because the PTO technically is the school and the school is a PTO. So we don't need a motion, but there is a board awareness that the auditors recommended. So I guess that's what we're
Okay, so,
acknowledging.
so in
no
the
action.
minutes, we are grateful. Can we do that? Can we make
We recognize.
can we, yeah. Do we want to make a motion for that or just recognition?
We should.
I don't
I
think we
think there
need a
should be a
motion.
motion in the minutes
Thanks.
thanking the PTO for that donation.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to thank the PTO for their donation or their support of $35,000 of PTO funding towards the playground project.
Great. Did you hear that, Don?
I did. Thank you, Toby.
Okay.
welcome.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank
You know,
you.
second it, but somebody else may want to do it, so I don't need to do it.
Okay, John seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Thank you, PTO. Okay, motion
Yes.
passed in formal recognition of their efforts.
Who spoke for the PTO? Is there someone there for the PTO?
No.
No, Julie, I read the letter that they sent.
So maybe Don wants to hear the names. I think the PTO chair is Amy Fremo, Don, and she signed it. I saw Erica LeClaire signed it as well. There's Kathy Kneebone and Arlene Stetson were the 4 signatures of the letter.
Oh, nice.
Laura, does that wipe out their account?
Oh, does it wipe out their account?
No, it doesn't. The purpose of playground improvements has been on the PTO's agenda since I was, so at least 12 or 15 years.
Right?
So they still have money for other purposes. They support a lot of field trip costs as well, but this is just moving the playground funds.
Okay, no, that's one of the reasons I asked. I know they've done a lot of smaller projects. I was hoping, as much as I appreciate this money, I was hoping they still had money to do other things. So, okay.
I believe that's the case, yep.
I remember PTO, how many years ago did we decide? Was it 25 years ago where we did the other playground? I'm moving you, Don. I'm carrying you. The phone.
Okay, I'm not talking, I'm listening.
Okay. Okay, so next on the agenda, thank you for that. Thank you, Laura.
Can I ask Laura a question? It has to do with PTO indirectly. When we're merged, so what, that money is still, is it going to be a PTO of all PTOs, or?
No, you maintain your own, a separate bank, I'm sure we will maintain a separate bank account for Swanton's PTO.
So, what's going to be the view of equitable use of money like that by the newly merged school? For example, I'm guessing that there's some schools that don't do field trips right now, maybe within the district, that's funded by the PTO?
It's not general fund dollars, it's donations, it's fundraiser proceeds, it's a different kind of funds, so
Right,
the principal truly has a
I
discretion.
could see an equitable issue, not funding, but as far as opportunities.
Yeah.
If one school located in, because I just think there's a monumental shift in thinking that.
I don't think with student activities it'll be to that degree, is my understanding.
I think it should be, because if I was in Highgate and I saw, I was just so happened to be attending the school in Highgate, and I knew, because we're in the same district.
Right.
That thinking has to cease, because I heard it the other day up at a different school that none of the kids on the team were from the town of that other school. The towns are irrelevant. As far as I'm concerned, we're one district. Everybody's property is everybody's property.
Except in this case, the funds are being raised like with a local
So, yeah,
fundraiser, so if
I'm not talking
Highgate
funding.
didn't.
I'm talking about opportunities.
Right.
Well, they have the opportunity to fundraise.
Right.
And I do
Well,
think
yeah, it's a
your
little-
larger
it's different.
point is some communities are able to have field trips or
right, that should be-
enriching
Skiing.
opportunities. And those are the things that you can't typically address all of it simultaneously. But as a board, you really look at those things and you really try and make shifts so that you are creating opportunities for students, so that kids have music opportunities or kids that can
Right.
go to the Flynn for, whatever. I'm just
Right.
extrapolating, but.
Are you thinking?
I mean, this is more, I guess I'm getting off topic because it really needs to go to the SU level, but I'm a little upset that the state, the articles they gave us still maintain the stovepipes of representation by town. I think we're all one district, and guaranteeing certain numbers for certain towns, I think just keeps us in our stovepipes, and in the long run, it's just gonna be a hurdle. But I guess that's for me to go to the SU board with in January to talk about.
I think a lot of those equity issues, though, it's gonna cause the conversations to happen and put those items in a general line item in the budget.
Yes.
If
Yeah.
there's field trip funding that's necessary to provide equal opportunities to
Right.
all students across the school district, then perhaps it should be a general fund line item and shouldn't be dependent upon fundraising. In some schools, but a line item in
Right.
other schools, and so I think it's shifting that thinking, in how things are funded to provide equal opportunities. Because right now, there's a lot of that, even between our schools, never mind across the state or the
Right.
country, yeah.
Well, that's where I was going to go with this, and I know not to get off topic, I am off topic, I'll just be quickly off topic. But, we're talking about equal opportunities between our little territory right here, right? But if we're really talking equal opportunity, I mean, there's kids in the supervisory union next door who can't count three-pointers in their basketball game because their gyms aren't as big. I mean, just stupid stuff like that. Then if we're really talking equality, what good is it going to do to just have us merge here when you got other stuff like that. Like, we're going on a field trip, these kids don't even have a big enough gym to be able to do certain things anyway. That's kind of what you're getting at. All this compromise is ending up with keeping us all in stovepipes, and it's not all fair anyway.
If we're still falling in these they're artificial now, they're gone for our school districts. They shouldn't matter. Now that's radical thinking, because people are going to say that's our high school in Highgate, this is Swanton School, we built with taxpayer over, it's gone.
But that's what I said, those conversations will be forced by nature of you are sharing expenses and you are sharing revenue. Like it or lump it, that's how it's going to work. And
your representation is still going to be 2 from every town.
For example, with our ski program, we have skiing in Swanton and Highgate, but Franklin doesn't, do they?
Yes.
I think they do.
Oh, do they?
They go to
Okay.
jail.
If not, they could say
There's
they
other
don't pay for us.
examples, but yeah.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I was a contributor, so let's get back on task.
The funding of all 3 of those programs is very
Is very different. And that's true for a lot of things, which is why that's the whole purpose why we wanted to remove revenue sources and include all expenses. And in Swanton, it wasn't as large of a change, but in some of the schools, even like a title-funded intervention position was not reflected in their local budget. After-school program was not reflected in their local budget because they had an outside revenue source, Medicaid dollars, title funds, whatever, and we were just paying things directly. And that was the shift that we were supposed to be doing when the state was merging, centralizing everything. But we wanted you to see and have everyone start with all your expenses in your building are now in this expenditure budget. Revenues are going to be taken off the top layer.
Thank you for that, because I was like, this isn't that, okay, for other areas.
Yeah.
Well, great, thank you. Are you guys okay if we move on to the next? Don, you had something you want to say? I thought I heard some commotion over there.
Just would like to ask Toby, earlier in the meeting, I don't think he was there when I mentioned about the uniforms. We were talking about athletic uniforms for the students. Just want to make certain that somebody bring him up to date, maybe after the meeting, whatever, to make sure that he feels that what we're doing is appropriate. And if we need more money, we should put more money in the budget.
For sure, we'll do that.
Sure, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, great. So we've done the principal's report, thank you. And now we're moving into, well, that's the other thing, we're talking about all this. We have our fearless leader here, Julie, who's going to help with all this kind of stuff, right? And speaking of which, here we go with the superintendent's report.
I'm here to help.
Thank you.
So you have my newsletter. I think I'm going to not read my newsletter to you because some of it has to do with Act 46. By the time I write it and then things have moved on, I do want to touch base quickly before I jump into Act 46 section, because there's sort of crossover there between the newsletter and Act 46. It was brought up just wanting to know what the process is for the evaluation of principals. I have a tool that I'm using with all the principals with the leadership standards, where there's just an assessment of where people are rating themselves and whether I agree with that, and then individuals writing their goals that they've developed with their teachers and their teams, and we're sitting down in probably late January and having those conversations. I'm trying to do it in a survey kind of format so that it'll be something electronic and pretty easy to work with the principals on. But I wanted to let you know that it is something I'm doing with the entire administrative team. We've also worked, I had a tool for the business office and HR department, and have sought feedback on the tool that I have because I didn't like some of the language in it. And I'm doing something similar with that group of folks in central office. So I just wanted to make sure that I updated on that.
Yep, I actually appreciate that much. I just wanted to, sounds like the timeline is great for me, January, although it doesn't really matter now, but. When you said January, that's good timing because of the contractual
Absolutely.
Timeline, so,
and our contracts by Act 46, everything's going to be a little bit kooky, I think, is probably a good word for that.
It's an excellent word.
Because we won't necessarily have the usual process in terms of timelines, but we'll follow, obviously, what all of our contracts, either union or non-union, say around timelines, that's for sure. So in terms of Act 46, I wanted to share the latest. Yeah?
Don?
Yeah.
There's a question? Okay, so Julie, you'll evaluate the principals, the special ed director, your business manager. I mean, you have a group of people you evaluate?
Correct.
Okay, so will Laura be evaluating the people who are down in that quadrant of the building? And,
Yes, we have a tool for that will help her do it. I'm creating a tool that will make it a little easier, because she does have a couple of things on her plate. But we do want to make sure that we're equitable and that we're giving people opportunities to get feedback.
my only, I guess I'm concerned, but I don't think it really is concerned. I just want to make certain that if you have a process, which I'm really pleased to hear you say what you're doing, that nobody gets overlooked.
Oh, no.
And I know it's very time consuming, but if we have a, accounts payable or a payroll or a grants person, it should be clear who's evaluating that person. So, but the evaluation should be really a learning experience, but something that helps a person grow, not necessarily just to find the things they aren't doing right.
Exactly.
So anyway, I'm just looking to see if there's some kind of master chart, so as a board member we can see who is evaluating who, because that's the bottom line.
Well, I think I'm probably going to have a spreadsheet for that so that it will help us keep track.
Okay, good. Because then Dina would do Justina in that case.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. So I wanted to shift gears to Act 46 and the things that have happened since we met last time. Since we met last, the State Board of Education has made its final determination. On the 30th of November, the report was published, and they are counting that as the date that everything becomes official. That Monday, we had signed certification that was filed with the Secretary of State that the Franklin Northwest Unified Union School District is an entity that exists and is certified, as I said, and town clerks all receive copies of that signed certification. We had 30 days from that November 30th date to warn a special meeting of the new district to organize. And that meeting will take place on January 23rd at 7 p.m. at MVU. And I wanted to speak a little bit about that and let the community know. And it'd be great if the camera could show it, because I really would like people to see. I mean, I don't know if that's going to be clear or not. If not, but we'll make sure that these are, they've already been worn today. And it's going to be in the newspaper for a couple of days. And I believe the Messenger is going to do an article explaining what all of these articles that people will be voting on will be. So this meeting will require us to elect a temporary presiding officer. It was interesting, I went to a meeting Monday of all superintendents who are all going through an imposed merger right now. And as confusing as things are, there are other places where it's worse, so I feel a little better at the end. And I did feel that we were moving forward with some good decisions here, so that was reassuring as well. One of the questions came up, why do we need to elect a temporary presiding officer and then 2 articles from then elect a moderator and a clerk and a treasurer? And the reason is, that was explained by one of the attorneys there, is that your moderator and clerk and treasurer may not actually be present in the meeting. So that it could be that Mr. Smith over here is a terrific moderator, but he couldn't make it today, so somebody else is going to be the temporary one. So it gives people an opportunity to choose someone, even if they're not present at the meeting. So we'll have to arrange and make sure that somebody is there who's willing and able to step into that position of moderator. We'll have to adopt Robert's Rules of Order. It says, or other rules of order. I've never heard of others, I'd be interested. But Robert Rules of Order are the standard.
All based on rules of order.
We'll be electing the following officers of the district from qualified voters of the district. And that will be a moderator, a clerk of the district, and a treasurer of the district. I have already spoken and will continue to reach out for folks that serve in those roles to see if they have any interest in doing so. We'll need to determine the date and location of the first annual meeting of the district and all subsequent annual meetings. Typically, right now, school districts' annual meetings are on town meeting day. It will depend on what the communities want to vote, if they want it to be on town meeting or if they want it a different day. It just has to be between February and June each year. Then you will have to determine how you want to vote on a few things as a new school district. Do you want to vote by Australian ballot when you vote on the budget or other public questions? Do you want to elect members of the district board by Australian ballot? Those two pieces are very hot topic. Other communities do town meeting, vote from the floor. Swanton votes by Australian ballot. The people who are in the room will make that decision as to whether we have an Australian ballot where we do an informational meeting and maybe go to town meetings where they hold town meetings and share some information about school meetings, or whether we have a town meeting style meeting once a year, probably at MVU, very similar to the way MVU used to hold meetings, and the electorate of the three communities comes together and votes on budget, board members, and any other topics. So this is a very important meeting for local folks in Swanton, Highgate, and Franklin to come and make this decision.
Yeah, we really hope Swanton people will show up.
Absolutely. What time is it? It will be 7 o'clock. We'll also have to determine if we're going to have compensation for the officers of the district, the clerk and the treasurer. Those are typically compensated positions. And compensation for board members. And then, of course, establish provisions for payment of any expense incurred by the district before it becomes fully operational. So if there are legal fees, for example, for the new district before July 1, having voter approval to expend dollars. And then authorizing the new district to borrow money pending receipt of payments from the state ed fund by the issuance of notes and other payable, not later than 1 year, etc. And I think lastly is to decide whether you want a printed annual report or whether the new district wants to notify people of the availability of an annual report online, for example, or paper copies at town clerk's offices. So that will be the slate of 11 things for the electorate to vote on. The new school board members will be sworn in. There will be 8 of them from January 23rd until town meeting, because there will be 2 from MVU as well, because the primary purpose of that group will be to prepare a budget, and they want the Union School District Board to have a voice in what that budget looks like. And then that board will also warn board members for town meeting, for elections of new board meetings, and that permanent board will be 6 people. And so those elections will be held, as I said, town meeting. So there's a lot going on.
You know, my concerns about this meeting is that there's a lot that's going to happen that they're assuming people are going to be working well together. things like deciding if you're going to have a booklet that's printed or available for pickup. There's just a lot of stuff that's going on at that meeting that seems like people aren't going to be really paying attention to. They're going to be more focused on some other stuff. So how are we going to make this so it works to be a constructive meeting instead of complaints? It's going to be really important who we have for
A good moderator.
A moderator.
Yeah.
Do we know who?
You
Yeah.
know who's an excellent moderator, right?
You? Don?
No. Gentleman from Franklin.
Tim Magnan?
His name is Magna.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness, that's right.
We are going to reach out to him because I think he has a lot of credibility there, and I expect there to be a high number of people from Franklin at this meeting.
I think in my tenure in this area, nobody has done it any better than he has. Another person who has done it, who I don't know the deeply available, is Steve Marshall, an attorney. He used to do it a number of years ago. I think he retired from that. He might be a backup, but Tim Magnan does an outstanding job whenever he's moderated a meeting.
Well, I know we're on camera here, but Tim, if you're watching, I do believe people have plans to reach out to you.
That meeting, is that MVU?
Yes, it is.
So we have to decide who's going to be on the transition from our board.
Yes, that will, where's our agenda? Here we go.
Is that later?
No, I think we've sort of, if it's all right with you, we've sort of morphed from superintendent's report into Act 46. The default members of the temporary transition board are the board chair and the clerk. But John has already made a statement about that. John?
I will be here for the 23rd probably, but not for the month of February when there'll be other meetings.
Right.
Don has expressed an interest. So no, that's, I don't want to be on it and not be here for,
Right.
I mean, after March, I'll be here. But
So the first thing we would need to do is have a motion, and a majority of the board can determine if somebody else would serve as the temporary person. And then, of course, anyone from Swanton is eligible to run on town meeting day for those two positions.
So we're talking temporary. Now, I am going to be gone. I'll be out of town, but I would be available via electronic.
Yep.
So, I mean, I would like to be on the temporary board, but I also understand if you guys would prefer somebody who was going to be here. But I am going to be here, like in terms of I can check my emails every day. I can be available Skype.
So, question for Julie. Julie?
Yep.
As if I understand this temporary board will be getting geared up soon, and its work needs to be done before town meeting day?
The temporary board will be sworn in on the 23rd of January. And the first meeting has to be within 14 days. I think because this meeting is at 7 o'clock at night, it will be too late an evening to hold the first board meeting that night. But we would want to have it as soon as practicable.
Right.
And then, yes, you hand over your work to the newly elected board when it organizes after town meeting.
May I make a suggestion? I would suggest that the board does meet that first night, regardless of how late it is. And then they can set up when they're going to meet. I mean, it doesn't have to be a long meeting.
Right.
But since they're all in the room,
Yep,
it would make sense that they meet, even if it's only for 20 minutes,
that makes sense.
just because it's so hard to get people together.
Listen,
Yeah.
I'm used to late meetings. I'm
I
happy.
know, you're always at late meetings, but it just seems to me that otherwise, given the nature of everything that's going on, I would strongly encourage that we go into it with the idea that we're going to have our first board meeting that same night.
And it could be that the budget would be voted on at town meeting, possibly? If
No.
there was, no, it's just too soon?
No, it can't be because the local boards don't have the authority, and it has to really be the elected board of the new district that approves and adopts the budget and then warns that for the public. So again, that's why we really want it to be people who are familiar with their budgets so that we can have that new board hopefully be people familiar with the work that's been happening and then just quickly adopt so that we can warn a meeting in April.
I was going to say, let's play that out. So the temporary board is working with the budget, and what are their deadlines? I mean, obviously, their first meeting has to take place within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But when are the other deadlines in terms of when they hand off the budget to the new board? That new board isn't even voted in until
Town meeting.
town meeting day. So
Town-
there's no budget yet, and then that board takes it over.
Correct. And the new board has to organize within 2 weeks of town meeting day. Obviously, we'd want that to be sooner than later. So ideally, in a perfect world, you'd have a budget all done by the temporary board. You'd meet within a week of town meeting, organize. It would be the same or almost the same group of men and women at the table saying, yep, this is the budget we discussed. We're adopting it. We're going to warn it for 30 days from now. And then we move forward with an early April, perhaps, or mid-April budget. And print up budget information for the community and have informational meetings, et cetera.
In April.
Yeah.
And then the deadline to, when is the Agency of Education expecting all these forced merged budgets to be done?
Well, they are recommending by May 1st, but that's just, if we do not have a budget by June 30, then there are statutes in place around what happens. And I'm not entirely sure what would happen in a merged budget situation, but
I'm not sure they thought that far.
they haven't thought that far. So let's get a budget. I think
Okay.
that's the
helps.
piece of work in front of us.
The other thing we had just talked about too
Thank
with
you.
the budget is when I think this is correct, as far as hiring and
Yes.
contracts going out and things like that, it could put us further.
That's
further
right,
ahead.
because all the other supervisory unions will be voting on town meeting day on their budgets.
Many of them, so there's a couple that are still doing a May vote, but that's always a hard thing, as Julie said, contracts and
Yeah.
things wouldn't go out, letters of intent.
It would
If I-
likely be letters of intent with no
Right.
budget, yes.
So those are things that just, I think at the building level are always concerning to us as far as, at this point, we don't know of anyone retiring or intending to leave, but if there is a need to hire, the longer we go without that, the longer it is before we can do that.
So timeline, the transitional board, and then, but if someone wants to run for the slots on town meeting day, they're,
Petitions
Yeah,
filed at the
petition,
local town
yeah,
clerk.
by like January 15 or something probably.
I'm not as familiar with
Yeah,
that
yeah.
timeline, but yes, within this next month.
So
Get
if
those
someone in the
petitions.
public wants to run, because there's a lot of campaignable issues, I think, right now on who wants to set a vision for, or how you want to approach all of this. So I think it's an opportunity, and I know, I'm hearing that in an ideal world, it might just be the transitional board running. But I also think this is a great opportunity for how the community can really work together to make this go. So I think it's a very, so I'm less interested in the transitional board, so I'm fine with whoever wants to do it. I won't, but I'm mulling over the actual elected position at town meeting day, because I think it's very interesting. Is that 222?
Yes,
Yes.
The permanent board will be 222, but the transitional is 2222.
yes.
It says here the petitions, whatever, have to be in no later than 6 Mondays preceding the date of the vote. For
Same
nominations
Mondays
for running for the
before.
board.
And the vote is?
Six Mondays.
6 Mondays preceding the date for the vote.
Okay,
So that's quick though,
It is.
6
so March 4th would be the 6th Monday, 25th would be, okay, so that's, how many Mondays?
Six.
Six, so
There's
6,
only
5,
4
4,
in
3,
February.
2. So they have to be in by Monday, the 28th
of January.
of January,
Okay.
which would be really cutting close, I would imagine, so you probably should do
earlier.
it by the
Yeah.
25th of
So
January.
anybody interested in running to represent Swanton should get petitions going.
And that's including individuals who may be on the transitional board.
Yes, they would need to be elected.
Everybody,
They're only appointed
Even like
temporarily.
Terry has another year left, so that's
Right.
null.
Correct, all of the boards here will be
yeah, done.
dissolved as of June 30.
Is anybody up,
This
as a
says
matter of
here
fact?
that December 31st, we have to stay active.
Yes.
In case anything's come up, can we
In
audit
case
with
there's an
the,
audit question,
Or
yes.
just existing? I
But
guess.
there is a question, is there anybody whose term ends this March?
Yeah,
Fine.
mine does.
Oh, okay, so we have to vote you, or we have to ask you to stay?
You can be
Through June.
appointed by, when you meet again in March after town meeting and organize from March until June, you can appoint.
You don't have to get a petition.
No,
Right.
not
But
for
we
that.
won't have any business, will we?
You'll have some, you might have a teacher that needs to be hired for a month, or a bill that needs to be paid, or warrants that need to be approved.
And
I would think you'd meet less often.
but why
perhaps.
would we need, what,
Because
the
there's-
board can't do it?
The organization
No.
isn't good.
Because it doesn't, because of the fiscal year issue, or?
They're not responsible for the running of this individual schools until July 1.
Oh, until July 1,
So
okay.
we need people to stay on.
It's overlap.
Yep.
What was the other thing I just thought? Oh, what's the terms of the new board? Is everyone staggered?
It's staggered.
Staggering.
Do you have it, John?
Job, John.
He is on top of it.
I know,
I
it's
have it
So
too, but I have so
basically a
many
two-year
papers.
transition.
Julie, you also mentioned if in the Articles of Agreement, if that's changed, it could, if people decide to, they vote on it, have 3 representatives from each town,
Uh-oh.
right?
Yes.
We have to change
right.
that, though.
We would need to bring that to the voters. There is a timeline to amend the Articles of Agreement before town meeting. It's a very difficult timeline to meet because you have to form a study committee that's proportional, and then you have to bring them to the voters before February 28th. And there really isn't a body that would be charging, to warn that yet. You would need to warn it before, I think, the 11th or 12th of January, and you wouldn't have a new board sworn in yet. So it's a very interesting process. We can have these Articles of Agreement imposed upon us. It is recommended by our school attorney that we do that, and then take our time as a new board, get community input, look at articles that we like and keep them, look at the articles that we might want to change, maybe strengthen the language around closing schools so that the communities feel comfortable, maybe increase board members from 2 to 3, those kinds of things can be done. They'd be brought before the voters of the entire municipality. Yep. It's a really, I was speaking with some communities that are trying to go through that process. It's fraught with challenges, to say the least.
Okay, and which one do you pick and choose? Someone might get testy about one being
Right.
bad. Okay. What were we going to say? Sorry.
Nothing.
I think keeping with I think that what you just said is, because at one point I thought as the supervisory chair that maybe we should look at some of them and change them, but if people wanted to, but now that I think about it, there could be one that some group might want and then one another, and just, boy, we got enough tension going
What
on.
happens with a split vote?
What do you mean?
It's because it's an even number board, it's 6. So you could have 3 and 3. What happens?
Well, you could,
Maybe the chair.
oftentimes, I know that MBU does not have the chair vote. Unless there is a
Is that
tie.
mentioned in the articles?
That's
It is not, but that's a practice that
Yeah,
boards can
as
take.
the supervisory board, the chair doesn't vote either.
No. Is that Robert's rules?
I think it's locally adopted.
Yeah, because they're small boards, you
Yeah.
have discretion.
Maybe we
But
should add that to our organizational meeting.
I think that those kinds of things, given that it's an even number, and I'm pretty sure that they picked 2, because some of these supervisory unions have so many small school districts in it, that if it was more than that, they'd have these massive boards. But local communities can amend that after the fact.
It does make sense that we should have had 3.
But these first terms will be staggered, and then in the future, they'll be 3-year terms.
That'd be the
that's-
only one I would change if I was to change any of those amendments, is to make it 3. But,
3 per town.
That's it for me.
okay, great. Thank you. Don, did you have anything you wanted to say? You're not part of the nonverbals here.
No, I'm listening.
Okay, good.
I was trying to get a handle on the timeline, but I made some notes, so I think I'm pretty clear on what has to happen when, and I guess January 23rd is going to be a big night. Hopefully we'll have more than 15 people there.
So,
Yeah, we got to recruit.
We do.
and we would need to have a vote to see who's going to be on the temporary board.
Do we need to do that now?
Yes, we should.
Okay. So we should make a vote to temporary board. So what do you all think? I would like to be on the temporary board, but if you have concerns about my being gone out of town, I would be fine with,
I think as long as you're
Hearings.
available to participate, I don't see that being an issue.
if I'm not physically here.
Right.
And and Dawn wanted to be on the board, is that fine with
So you-
people? Or?
But I can go either way if there are people that really, I just think it's going to be very intense for a short period of time.
Yes.
Yes, I agree.
Did anyone else want that intensity?
Do I have a choice?
You're going to the meeting.
You're
Laura.
Well, and I think intense is a good word, because I don't think it's just intense in terms of time that's required. I think it's going to be intense in terms of, yeah, there's going to be some energy, emotional strife or whatever, some conflict. So it'll be nice to be maybe not geographically present.
Oh, there you go.
Excellent.
So I'll make a motion, if you'll entertain it, Terry, that Don and Terry are what is it?
Transitional board members?
Transitional board members from Swanton School District.
Do we have
I'll
a second?
second that.
Any other discussion?
Godspeed.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you. We will be honored and we will advocate.
Okay.
We'll advocate.
Principals are going to be at that meeting.
So I guess I'd just say that anybody who's on the board has an interest should feel free to come to our meetings once they're established.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Doesn't mean just because we can have only 2 people that we should not have the full, I guess, knowledge and skills of all the board members. So if you're not one of the 2 and you have an evening and you want to be part of it, I would encourage people to come.
Yes.
I think that's important to know
I think
as
so.
well for community members. If there
Yes.
are folks interested in running for one of the 2, that it would be a wise decision to attend these meetings.
Absolutely.
That's an excellent point. Thank you.
Julie, one question, that when they elect a treasurer, is that going to be, is that like a treasurer like Laura or Becky, or just
No,
someone else?
it's a school
what they
district
do?
treasurer. Laura, please explain about the treasurer.
Yeah, that's a good question.
For the-
Please explain.
What does a treasurer do for a school district?
They issue payment based on the board's approval.
How's that different from what you do?
I don't have the authority. I create the payment, and I work with the board to be a liaison for business functions, but I can't sign a check. Right now, I can for Franklin Northwest because I am the treasurer for Franklin Northwest.
Kathy, want to be about?
Yes.
Kathy Fournier for Swanton. So she has, by statute, the authority to issue payment based on the board's approval.
But now, because towns don't matter anymore, we elect our own.
Towns don't matter. towns matter.
Well,
The town does not have the statutory default of being the
Right.
treasurer, so we
we'll
need
have
to elect
a-
one.
And that's
pay.
similar, I think, isn't Leon Berthium historically Bennett for MVU?
Yes.
Yes.
Right, because,
really?
because that,
No.
there's no town involved with
Leon,
MVU.
Berthium,
No,
might have been a long time ago.
Robin Bluen.
Oh,
Leanne is,
I think it
You
was.
pass that over.
he's St. Albans stuff.
well,
he might have
he's
been
been at
years ago.
MVU for years.
He was.
I know Robin Bluen has been for years for
Okay.
MVU, yeah. But I'm not sure that he's looking to continue, and I think he's been trying to retire for a while. from that
So we'll
role.
be looking for folks, I met with town clerks yesterday. And talked through this process with them and,
So you still have to get your petition from the town clerk in though, if
Yes.
you wanted to run in the new board, which is
Even going forward.
bizarre to me, but.
Even going forward.
yes, and it will be filed
Right.
in each district so that the petition, people can vote in each town, just like MVU.
A treasurer
But-
is much different than a town clerk.
Right, yeah, but I'm just talking about if you wanted to run, you've gotta get a petition from, like apparently, I think, because I live in Swanton, I'd have to go to Swanton to
Yes.
get it. But do I only have to have Swanton voters sign it if it's used in all the other towns?
I would ask the town clerk, but my understanding is that people usually get the petition signed by their own
Right.
community, but it could be any of the three.
I bet it's,
And you would represent all three communities.
That is interesting. How many signatures do you need to get?
30.
I think it's 30.
Yeah, I got it in the mail as a, like, if you're interested, you have to do this by.
I think it's a number or a percentage, so that would be interesting if you're from Franklin. I bet
Okay.
it might need less.
All right, I'm ready.
Are we ready to move on?
You haven't voted, though.
Oh, right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did we not, we didn't, we went, oh, I didn't say all in favor?
Right.
For what? Tamara, did they vote
For the transitional board?
for the transitional board? They did? All right, I'm sleepy.
It carried. Okay, good. I'm like, what?
I just
Okay,
wanted
good.
to make sure.
No, yes, thank you.
No, I'm sorry, 4-0. It's not 5-0, it's 4-0.
With Dawn.
Oh, Dawn, never
Did we
mind.
just
Sorry.
vote on it?
Sorry, Dawn.
Well,
Did we?
Terry didn't
Is he
vote.
still there?
Okay, let's just do it again. All in favor?
Did your phone die?
Aye.
Oh, no.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, thank you. Motion passed. Thank you.
Dawn, my battery's dying, so
I
if
forgot about
I
that.
disconnect, it's not on purpose.
I'm here in Florida, trying to enjoy life. Can we just move to the meeting day, and then my phone is running down too, so.
Okay,
I
let's
have to
do-
make sure we do this meeting day right this time, because I was ready to go January 2nd to, budget meeting, which I don't believe is gonna happen.
No, we won't need that any longer.
Okay, so we won't need our January 2nd meeting. However, we won't be having our January 23rd meeting because it's been usurped. And that was our NCSS meeting.
Yeah, we don't, those are all tentative dates as far as presentations, but
I was looking
thank you for
forward to
remembering
that.
that.
I
You
was
were
looking
looking
forward
forward
to
to
that.
it, well, we can do it.
So what do we think we should do about that date, the 23rd? Should we schedule a date after the 23rd so that we can?
What business will
That's
we
what I was just gonna ask, I mean,
Do we have any business?
I heard you say
Yeah, you would
that.
still have check warrants to approve.
Yep.
Business still has to continue through June 30th as far as
It just
payments. and-
It won't be budget. There will be
Shorter
everything we're
meeting,
going to
but
talk
the
about.
principal can still
Yes.
give a report.
Right.
Your meetings may be shorter,
The
absolutely.
23rd, we have it before the 23rd?
Yes, should we have it before or should we have it, I was just thinking if we had it after, it might give us something interesting to talk about.
Yeah.
However, having it before might help us plan.
Well, the week before is full of board meetings already.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, I'm in December. My apologies.
I was gonna say.
So I was thinking if we had it the week before, we could you'd do a little strategizing to make sure that we've got our ducks in a row for that meeting.
The week,
That's what I'm thinking.
the week before, the Wednesday, the 16th is open.
Would that work for people?
I believe so.
So,
January 15th?
January
16th.
16th. No, wait.
Yes, 16.
What's the date, Miss?
the
1/6.
Wednesday, the 16th.
15th?
1/6.
January, Wednesday, January 16th.
On the 26th, on the 17th?
16th.
16th, Wednesday.
The day before MVU.
Okay, good. So the 16th is Swanton and the 17th is MVU. I have MVU on my calendar.
Perfect.
You're right. That's correct.
That's fine with me. I didn't mind that at all, but I do think we should meet to kind of get our ducks in a row, make sure we're ready to go to that meeting on the 23rd.
Okay.
And that'll be at 6 o'clock, correct?
Yeah, there's a Women United meeting there if anybody cares, but I guess not, so we're good. Okay. Just saying. Okay.
Terry, will you be in town on the 16th?
Yes, for sure. Okay, thank you. January 16th, for sure. Okay, everybody else is? We got January 16th at 6 o'clock, Swanton Board.
So is the SU board meeting on the 2nd? Is that still correct?
I'm sorry?
The
Yes.
SU board is still meeting on the 2nd?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, good.
I have no idea what you were whispering.
Okay. So what do we need? Are we still good? What's going
Yep,
on?
well, the next thing we want to make sure we do is approve and ratify the
Yes.
contract with the association.
Oh, for crying out loud. All right, so, sorry, I'm having a look, my phone's fighting with me about putting that date in there. So, the next one, our new business, approval and ratification of the memorandum of agreement. Who wants to, do you want to talk about that one? Or who's going to talk
Well,
about that?
John, you were with me, right, at the negotiations meeting?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
We're going to approve tonight. We had a negotiations meeting in November. The association came to us because of Act 46 and because of Act 11, where the state is taking over the negotiations of healthcare. They wanted to just roll over the master agreement for 1 year. This is professional staff. And they wanted the equivalent of a step for all staff. And they wanted a side letter for, one side letter was for teachers to have prep. That was something that was inadvertently left out of the contract. And then there was a side letter for both professional and support staff that they wanted to have continued around the health reimbursement account and who is the first payer and the last payer. And the negotiations committee met and agreed with that. And the SU board agreed with that. We have approved this at the SU board and local boards that have met so far. At the end, the association will meet and address it themselves and hopefully ratify it. So it should be done very, very soon.
It's all done in one meeting. It's the fastest, anyway, that's great.
It was a real benefit to the
Yeah.
school district too. The increase was low, cost of a step was low, and it was really positive for our budgets.
I will make a motion that we approve, as recommended by the superintendent of schools and the negotiating committee.
Don made a motion that we approve as negotiated, as
The ratification.
yes, approve the ratification. Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
John just seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passed to ratify. Thank you. Thank you for the work. Okay,
And the 5-week plan.
excuse me. And then the next item, capital improvement plan approval.
The facilities committee met, and at the direction of Toby, Jason and I put together a little bit more of a detailed 5-year plan. We're kind of calling it our continuous improvement plan because it does stretch over 5 years. It's basically more specificity around the items that we had brought to the board beforehand. I think in our conversation in the facilities committee, we just wanted to, I guess, somehow reassure that as we unify, that we can still keep that plan as moving forward, especially around the area of capital improvements within our building and grounds. And not entirely sure that by adopting this in a formal motion that we can be secure in that. but we felt that going through that official and formal step would be appropriate at this time.
Well, it would help too if we also took with us the plan of what we've already done in the last number of years and show this is continuing. So it's not just, we didn't do it just now because we want to.
And I
Because the
have
new
that, there's a couple
board.
of different documents, John. The document that I sent was more of a Word document with some bullet points and narratives and cost, but Jason has the beginning and has documented everything along the way that has been completed thus far.
Good.
So that documentation is available as well.
Yeah, those are the things are done. Sorry, go ahead, Don.
I just said, I think it did go ahead, but it has no legal standing.
Yes,
Right.
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 But, and it's still, though, it's helpful. You know, it's a good record. It's very well done.
I agree.
So that was really it. And the board can either take official action on it or not, but just realize that, Toby, I don't know if you want to say anything further.
So I just thought it would be good to maybe just, and I agree with you, Don, I don't think it has any legal standing and we can't bind a future board to anything, but I think it would be great if our minutes reflected that we accepted this long-range capital improvement plan. That was my feeling when we met as a committee.
I think it's great, Toby, because, there are going to be a lot of things flying at us, and if somebody's done the homework and documents that, I think puts us a step ahead. So I'm pleased it's there. I just didn't want anybody in the public to think that if we didn't follow it, it's because it doesn't go forward. No, I think it's a great idea.
So if Terry will entertain the motion, I'll just make a motion to accept the Swanton School Long Range Capital Improvement Project outline or plan that was presented to the Swanton Board on this night.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Megan seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you for putting it all on paper, what we've been living over the past couple of years, and for going forward. Thank you. Okay.
Thanks for letting me do it, guys. Have a good holiday.
Thank you too.
Good night,
Good night, Don. Thank you. That's it, because that is it. We've got our reschedule. We're all set. Thank you all.
At the agenda.
Yeah. Anything else? Anyone, any comments? Anything else anyone wants to bring up before we close?
We don't have an executive session.
Nope. Unless you need us to. Is there anything we want?
I can ask you later.
Is there anything? Anybody? Thank you all. Well, this is sad to see us drawing to a close here, but not yet, right? We still have things to do.
Not yet.
Not yet. So happy holidays, everyone. Thank you for anyone listening. Happy holidays. And we will be back, yes?
Yes.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.